A very good morning. It's just past 10 by the clock and we're back again with another edition of News on the Hour. This is your 1 hour show of all that matters, not only to India but also the world. This is also a show where we cut all the noise and get you news as it happens. I'm Anil Thomas. Let's get started with the top stories that we are tracking. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to launch the Kindle version of Swami Chidbhavanandaji's Bhagavad Gita through virtual mode. The event has been organized to commemorate the sale of over 5 lakh copies of Swami Chidbhavanandaji's Bhagavad Gita. Political fever grips in poll-bound states. AIADMK releases second list of 171 candidates for Tamil Nadu Assembly polls. Alliance partner BJP to contest in 20 and PMK on 23 seats. Makkal Nidhi Mayam to also release first list of 70 candidates. Congress announces list of 26 candidates for second phase of Assam elections. 8 people died and 4 seriously injured in a tragic accident in Agra, in Uttar Pradesh. Police confirmed there were 12 people in the car who are from Bihar's Gaya district. US Congress gives final approval to the $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill, a historic legislative package that will turn the page on corona pandemic, deliver direct relief to Americans. President Biden to sign this bill tomorrow. And Liverpool moves past Leipzig into the quarter-finals as Barcelona bow out of the Champions League with a spirited performance at Paris Saint-Germain. MAHA SHIVRATRI being celebrated nationwide. Devotees reaching Shiva temples to offer their prayers. Thousands of devotees throng to Hari Ki Pauri in Haridwar to take a holy dip. Hari Ki Pauri lightens up ahead of the first Shahi Snan of Mahakumbh 2021. President, Prime Minister and other leaders greet the nation on the occasion. So let's get started with the top story that's coming, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch the Kindle version of Swami Chidbhavanandaji's Bhagavad Gita. He will also address the occasion today through virtual mode. The event has been organized to commemorate the sale of over 5 lakh copies of the Swami Chidbhavanandaji's Bhagavad Gita. Swami Chidbhavanandaji is the founder of the Sri Ramakrishna Tapovan Ashram in Tamil Nadu. Swamiji has authored 186 books and all genres of literary composition. His scholarly work on the Gita is one of the most extensive books on the subject. The Tamil version of the Gita with his commentaries were published in 1951, followed by the English version in 1965. Its translation into Telugu, Oriya, German and Japanese were undertaken by devotees. Well, India's battle against COVID-19 continues. Under India's largest COVID-19 vaccination program, more than 2 crore 56 lakhs COVID-19 vaccine doses are being administered nationwide. A total of 2 crore 56 lakhs 85,011 vaccine doses being given. 13,17,357 vaccine doses given on a single day on Wednesday. That's the 10th of March, and considerable enthusiasm being seen among the elderly. Well, let's now take a look at COVID-19 update from across the country. As per the Union Health Ministry, 18,100 recoveries recorded in the last 24 hours, taking the cumulative number of those people who have recovered from COVID-19 to 1 crore 9,38,146. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 96.92%. India's total active caseload stands at over 1,89,000 today. Also, the country's present active caseload consists of 1.68% of the total positive cases, and the fatality rate in India is currently at 1.40%. So the active cases 1.68%, India's fatality rate at 1.40%. Well, under a Vaccine Maitri initiative of India, Iran will receive vaccines today. This consignment includes 1,25,000 doses of Covaxin exported from the Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech on Wednesday. Iran Health Ministry spokesman Kushub Jahanpura confirmed this on his Twitter handle. The billboards have been put up. Well, at this point of time, let's cut across live to the Prime Minister's event, which is going to begin shortly, and let's get inputs on. We're going to get live inputs from our correspondent there, also there on ground zero at this point of time. Let's now cut across live to that function that the Prime Minister is addressing virtually.
Distinguished guests, friends, Vanakkam. This is a unique program, an e-book of the Gita with the commentary of Swami Chidbhavananji is being launched. I would like to appreciate all those who have worked on this. Thanks to this effort, tradition and technology have merged. E-books are becoming very popular, especially among the youth. Therefore, this effort will connect more youngsters with the noble thoughts of the Gita. Friends, this e-book will also deepen the connect between the eternal Gita and the glorious Tamil culture. The vibrant Tamil diaspora spread globally will be able to read it easily. The Tamil diaspora has scaled new heights of success in many sectors. Yet, they are proud of their cultural roots. They carry with them the greatness of Tamil culture wherever they went. Friends, I would like to pay homage to Swami Chidbhavananji. Mind, body, heart and soul. His was a life devoted to India's regeneration. He planned to study abroad, but destiny had different plans for him. One book he saw at a roadside bookseller, Swami Vivekananda's Madras lectures, changed the course of his life. It inspired him to put the nation above everything else and serve the people. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says, Yad yad acharti shrestha, tat tat eva etare janah. Sayat pramanam kurute, lokah tat anuvartate. This means, whatever great men do, many are also inspired by them to follow. On one hand, Swami Chidbhavananji was inspired by Swami Vivekananda. On the other hand, he went on to inspire the world with his noble deeds. The Ramakrishna Tapovanam Ashram has been carrying forward the noble work of Swami Chidbhavananji. They are doing commendable work in community service, healthcare, and education. I would like to appreciate Sri Ramakrishna Tapovanam Ashram and wish them the best for their future endeavors. Friends, the beauty of the Gita is in its depth, diversity, and flexibility. Acharya Vinoba Bhave described the Gita as a mother who take him in her lap if he stumbled. Greats like Mahatma Gandhi, Lokmanya Tilak, Mahakavi Subramaniam Bharati were inspired by the Gita. The Gita makes us think. It inspires us to question. It encourages debate. The Gita keeps our mind open. Anybody who is inspired by the Gita will always be compassionate by nature and democratic in temperament. Friends, one would think something like the Gita would have emerged in peaceful and scenic surroundings. But as you all know, it was in the middle of the conflict that the world got the finest life lesson in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is the greatest source of knowledge about everything that we can hope for. But have you ever thought what causes this knowledge to pour out from the words of Sri Krishna? It is Vishad or sadness. The Bhagavad Gita is the treasure of thoughts that reflects the journey from Vishad to Vijay. When the Bhagavad Gita was born, there was conflict, there was Vishad. Many feel today humanity is passing through similar conflicts and challenges. The world is fighting a tough battle against a once-in-lifetime global pandemic. The economic and social impacts are also far-reaching. In such time, the path shown in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita becomes ever relevant. It could provide strength and direction to once again emerge victorious from the challenges humanity faces. In India, we saw many instances of this. Our people-powered fight against COVID-19, the outstanding spirit of the people, the courage of our citizens. One can say that behind this are glimpses of what Gita highlights. There is also a spirit of selflessness. We saw this time and again when our people went out of the way to help each other. Friends, last year there was an interesting article in the European Heart Journal. This is a peer-reviewed journal of cardiology published by the University of Oxford. Among other things, the article talked about how the Gita was most relevant in these COVID times. The Bhagavad Gita was described as an accurate guide for living a fulfilling life. The article compares Arjun to the healthcare workers and the hospitals as the battlegrounds for the war against the virus. It appreciated the healthcare workers for doing the duty, overcoming any fear and challenge. Friends, the core message of the Bhagavad Gita is action. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jayo hakarmanaha. Sharir yatra pichate na prasiddhe da karmanaha. He is asking us to indulge in action because it is a far better than inaction. In fact, he says, we cannot even take care of our body without action. Today, the 1.3 billion people of India have decided their course of action. They are going to make India Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. In the long term, only a self-reliant India is in everyone's interest. At the core of Atmanirbhar Bharat is to create wealth and values not only for ourselves but for the larger humanity. We believe that an Atmanirbhar Bharat is good for the world. In the recent past, when the world needed medicines, India did whatever it could to provide them. Our scientists worked in a quick time to come out with vaccines. And now, India is humbled that vaccines made in India are going around the world. We want to heal as well as help humanity. This is exactly what the Gita teaches us. Friends, I would specially urge my young friends to have a look at the Bhagavad Gita. The teachings are extremely practical and relatable. In the middle of fast-paced lives, the Gita will provide an oasis of calm and peace. It is a practical guide for several dimensions of life. Never forget the famous verse, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. It will free our mind from fear of failure and put our focus on our action. The chapter on Jnana Yoga deals with the importance of true knowledge. Bhakti Yoga, teaching us the importance of devotion, is touched upon in one of the chapters. Every chapter has something to offer to cultivate a positive frame of mind. Above all, the Gita reinforces the sentiment that each one of us is a spark of the Supreme, the all-powerful Divine. This is something even Swami Vivekananda highlights. My young friends, be having to cope with many tough decisions as well. During such times, always ask yourself, if I were in place of Arjuna, facing this dilemma, what would Sri Krishna ask me to do? This works brilliantly because you suddenly start detaching your own likes and dislikes from the situation. You start looking at it from the eternal principle of the Gita, and it will always take you to the right place and will always help you taking tough decisions. Once again, congratulations on the launch of the e-book with commentary authored by Swami Chidbhavanand ji. Thank you. Vanakkam.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launching the Kindle version of Swami Chidbhavanandji's Bhagavad Gita, and he's speaking at that function virtually. He spoke about it being a unique concept as tradition and technology merge, and e-books are popular among youth, and this particular initiative will help the youth to connect more with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Swami Chidbhavanandji has been inspired by Vivekananda, and the beauty that the Gita offers is diversity and flexibility. He spoke about great leaders who fought freedom like Mahatma Gandhi and Lokmanya Tilak, all being inspired by Gita. Anyone inspired by Gita will be democratic in temperament and will have compassion for nature. Bhagavad Gita is a treasure of thought that transcends the journey from conflict to victory. And the Prime Minister speaking said that Bhagavad Gita is the most relevant teachings in today's fight against COVID-19 faced by the world. It provides strength and direction to the challenges humanity faces. The Prime Minister spoke about an article in the Health Journal published by a peer group and the teachings of Gita being mentioned there, where Arjun is compared to health workers while the hospital is the battleground. The core message of Bhagavad Gita is that action is far better than inaction. The Prime Minister clearly laying out the significance of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and we've got a correspondent Arun Sharma standing by to give us some more inputs on that particular story. Arun, good morning. The Prime Minister clearly laying out the the talking of an amalgamation of tradition with technology. Do you see this particular book having more takers now that it's available on Kindle?
Absolutely, Anil. And there are many big highlights, big messaging from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's side when he actually launched this Kindle version of Bhagavad Gita by Swamiji. Apparently, the important aspect is that we know this fact that how modernity is blending with a tradition, primarily how traditions are blending with modernity, how traditions are being blending with technology. So these are some of the key aspects. But here's the big message is that we know this fact that various researches are being undertaken as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, not only in India, but countries like US, European countries are conducting research. Various top universities, institutions are conducting research on Bhagavad Gita. And that's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi also highlighted, that in various research, it has been found that how Bhagavad Gita has been relevant in all the times, in all the yugas primarily. All the prime chapters of Bhagavad Gita, be it the Bhakti Yoga or be it the Gyan Yoga. So all this gives a message, essence of life. The youth of our country, the youth globally primarily often ask questions to themselves that what is the essence of life? What is the meaning of life? There are certain questions that even science can't answer to that question. It is Bhagavad Gita that is proven, and it gives answer to all the life questions, all the problem, chaos in your life that can be solved with this Bhagavad Gita. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly said that how researches have been done and how the health workers of our country were compared to Arjuna. The way they bravely went ahead and fought this COVID crisis, helped the humanity. So the health workers indeed working like Arjuna. And we know this fact that in our life also, we often are in dilemma in our life that what should we do? What should we not do? So in that context, Bhagavad Gita can play an important role in solving problems of our life. And interestingly, Anil, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's this initiative of digitizing this content on Kindle will of course give a major push to Bhagavad Gita, not only in India, but globally as well, because there are many researches are going on. So Kindle, if you look at the Kindle platform, let's try to understand this Kindle platform. I mean, if you look at US, the Kindle platform is a big market as far as US is concerned. Kindle platform is available, I mean, in more than 100 countries. India is a growing market as far as Kindle users are concerned. So gradually, the youngsters, the next generation, who are keen to read books now, not reading physical books primarily, but they're upgrading themselves on the digital content or the Kindle platform. So in that context, when you're walking hand in hand with technology, when you're walking hand in hand with times, this kind of digital content will motivate and inspire the youngsters of our country to read Bhagavad Gita primarily, to find the solutions of the life, and of course, all the chaos and conflict that happens in the mind of any person that can be sorted out.
Okay, Arun, it also talks about, action being needed, and somewhere deep down, the Prime Minister's, core message of self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, somewhere once again being brought to the fore through this particular, launch.
Absolutely, and this is by default. Indians have that feeling of compassion. Indians have that feeling of selfless services, and even during the COVID pandemic time, we have seen it how our COVID warriors, the healthcare workers, the airline workers, primarily for that matter, the Swachhta Karamcharis for that matter, they have worked selflessly. They have worked with compassion, and Bhagavad Gita primarily teaches you how you should work with compassion, how you should primarily serve humanity with selfless nature and selfless approach. And the core of Atmanirbhar Bharat primarily, is wealth and wellness primarily. And Atmanirbhar Bharat means that, helping others as well, contributing to the global supply chains as well, and fulfilling our own needs as well. So yes, Bhagavad Gita clearly inspires, millions of people in that aspect. And as far as Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India is concerned, Bhagavad Gita primarily can, inspire millions and millions of youngsters so that they can contribute to New India, they can contribute to primarily Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have seen because many youngsters, sometimes get demotivated.
Okay.
If in case, for example, if a youngster is innovating something, he is not successful, in his innovation, so he sometimes gets demotivated. But Bhagavad Gita teaches you that how, without any selfish approach, you have to work with complete selflessness. You have to contribute for the society. You have to contribute for your country. You have to contribute for this entire systems. We are the part of this entire supreme energy that exists in this nature. We are just a small subset of energy in this nature, and we have to just contribute for the humanity. And that is what the core message is. And that's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to highlight, that youngsters should come forward. They should contribute for the nation. They should selflessly contribute to the nation so that Atmanirbhar Bharat can be achieved.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us, Arun Sharma, with those inputs there on the Prime Minister launching the Kindle version or the e-book version there of that particular teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Well, time for us to slip into a short breather here. On the other side, news from across the world continues. Stay with News on the Hour.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India.
Salam India.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous sommes land.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi hasti.
Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back to News on the Hour. Let's now cut across and take a look at all the news that's making from across the world in our international segment. Starting first up with the billboards have been put up in Greater Toronto area thanking Prime Minister Narendra Modi for providing COVID-19 vaccines to Canada. Well, Friday is going to be a landmark day in terms of multilateralism, with a new framework for cooperation crossing another milestone in the interest of peace and progress in the Indo-Pacific region. The day will see the Quad holding its first ever summit level meeting virtually. Prime Minister Modi will be a part of it along with leaders from the US, Japan and Australia. A lot of anticipation is building up around the meeting. Here's a report.
The first ever leaders meeting of Quad group of countries will be held virtually on March 12th. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating along with his Australian and Japanese counterparts Scott Morrison and Yoshihide Suga and US President Joe Biden on Friday. The leaders will discuss regional and global issues of shared interest and exchange views on practical areas of cooperation towards maintaining a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. The summit will provide an opportunity to exchange views on contemporary challenges such as resilient supply chains, emerging and critical technologies, maritime security and climate change. The leaders will discuss ongoing efforts to combat COVID-19 pandemic and explore opportunities for collaboration in ensuring safe, equitable and affordable vaccines in the Indo-Pacific region. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said that the meeting of the Quad countries indicates the importance Biden places in US allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific region.
Friday will be the first time that the Quad is meeting at the leader level.
That President Biden has made this one of his earliest multilateral engagements speaks to the importance we place on close cooperation with our allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific. A range of issues, of course, will be discussed.
She also said she expected a range of issues facing the global community to be discussed, from the threat of COVID to economic cooperation and to the climate crisis. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, the US Congress has approved a massive $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package on Wednesday, authorizing a flurry of new federal spendings to help millions of families still struggling amid the pandemic. The 220 to 211 vote in the House of Representatives almost entirely went along the party lines, and it will be sent to President Biden's desk, one of the largest economic rescue packages in US history. He will sign the bill tomorrow. Following the approval, President Biden said the bill is about to give the backbone to this nation, the essential workers, the working people who build this country, the people who keep this country going, a fighting chance.
I want to thank Speaker Pelosi and the House of Representatives today for passing the bill, and I will be signing it into law shortly. This bill represents a historic victory for the American people. I look forward to signing it later this week.
Well, Democrats described the legislation as a critical response to a pandemic that has killed over 5 lakh people and thrown millions out of work.
The American Rescue Plan, Mr. Speaker, is a force for fairness and justice in America. This legislation is one of the most transformative and historic bills any of us will ever have the opportunity to support.
We say to America, help is on the way. Help is on the way. You will receive $1,400 checks by the end of March. Help is on the way. Vaccines will be available far more quickly to far more people in a shorter time. Help is on the way. Our schools will open safely and more quickly than we thought. Help is on the way. Half of America's children who are in poverty will not be in poverty because of this bill. Help is on the way. This is one of the most consequential pieces of legislation we have passed in decades. And you know what we can show America? That we can get things done to make their lives better. And we will continue to do that through the rest of this session.
Well, let's now take a look at the benefits that this bill will ensure. First of all, one-off direct payment worth $1,400 that will be sent to most Americans, $1,400 to every American. Extension of weekly jobless benefit payments of $300 until September. Allocation of $350 billion to state and local governments. Allocation of some $130 billion to school reopening. Allocation of $49 billion for expanded COVID testing and research. Allocation for $14 billion for vaccine distribution. Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, has tweeted the moment when the American Rescue Plan passed in the House. She said families across the country will sleep better knowing help is here. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has said that after Americans are vaccinated, the US looks forward to sharing the surplus vaccines with the rest of the world. Biden said this at a press brief after a joint announcement with the chief executives of Johnson & Johnson and Merck about their joint effort to produce more vaccines. He further added that the US has already committed $4 billion to COVAX global initiative in its bid to help the rest of the world in this time of crisis. The American president said that their first priority is the safety of American citizens, but they are going to try and help the rest of the world.
And today, I'm directing Jeff and my HHS team to produce another 100 million doses and purchase another 100 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm doing this because in this wartime efforts, we need maximum flexibility. There's always a chance that we'll encounter unexpected challenges or there'll be a new need for a vaccine effort, a vaccination effort. A lot can happen, a lot can change, and we need to be prepared.
Well, for more on the story, we're joined by correspondent Abhishek Jha joining us this morning. Abhishek, good morning. Abhishek, first things first, this particular, package that's been cleared by the Senate, clearly, it's a sigh of relief for many American families, that were worried for the, what's to be served on the table, or how do you look at the future ahead? This particular package that's been announced clearly soothes those unsettled nerves in almost every American home.
Of course, Anil, and this was also one of the key election promises of Joe Biden when he was fighting for the presidential election, and that the moment his government comes, he will announce a huge package. And this 1.9 trillion package is one of the largest one can ever imagine, because it's historic, and US has never seen such a huge relief package in terms of value. And this huge package is going to go in every direction of economy, public health care, unemployment fund. Those people who have been jobless in the wake of Corona, they will be also given a certain amount of relief through this fund. And the basic health infrastructure is also going to be improved with this huge economic relief package. However, the Republicans in the Senate, they did not support this package, saying that this is the money that is so huge may not be directed what is actually needed in terms of fighting against the COVID pandemic and its disastrous economic implications across the nation. But Biden has successfully been able to maneuver through the Senate and politics, and has been able to secure this huge relief package for every American.
Okay, Abhishek, put that into perspective for us. Does this become the first, major win for the Biden administration, since the time they took over on Jan 20th?
So, Anil, ever since the Biden administration has come, it is actually has been scoring on every single promise that it has been making during the election campaign. We have seen USA, in fact, the US is resetting its image internationally as well. We have seen US rejoining the UN Humanitarian Agency. It has rejoined the Paris Accord. It has also, reviewed its policy towards immigration and immigrant population. So many other policy level decisions that the Trump administration was literally criticized from the sides of this Democratic Party. Those have been actually reset. And the economic packages that Biden administration is now taking is also one in that direction, which also simply is a symbolic win for the Biden administration also, that the promises that he has made during his election campaigning, he has been able to deliver on that, no matter how strong the protest was from the Republican side. Because that the margin is very narrow in Senate for Biden and Harris team, but still they have been able to manage this huge relief package. It's a victory, political victory also for them, for all those who have supported Biden for the presidential election.
Okay, now when you look at this, when you look at a breakdown of the particular bill that's been given there, it talks about many sectors that's been taken care of, but one particular sector that's come to my mind, it's offering nearly $30 billion in aid to restaurants. Why is this particular, especially to an industry, especially to the hospitality industry, this particular move, 30 billion being given? Was there a crisis in its true sense?
Of course, Anil, we have to look at not only in USA but globally. The UN reports and UN agencies on tourism, they have clearly said that globally the tourism and hospitality industries have suffered almost 99%. So the worldwide this tourism and hospitality industry was shut in the wake of Corona. International tourism, domestic tourism, or in fact people who would normally go for dinner or dining out or lunch out, they had also stopped, and all this industry, millions of people who would be employed otherwise have been they have been remained rendered jobless, and to address their concern, because the Corona pandemic is still there, the social distancing feeling is still there. So that footfall that earlier used, like a year ago, that footfall that would go to restaurants and other hospitality industry sector is still trying to pick up. And in this moment of crisis, one can only expect that the government would chip in and help those who have been impacted by this. And this $30 billion, however, sounds a huge chunk of money from that whole relief package, but still it will not be sufficient enough to cater to the needs and the crisis that they have seen in the last 1 year, all the hospitality industry and the people who have been employed there. One can only expect that from here onward, these small help from the government side will help this industry to recover and reaffirm its presence across the nation, because now we are also seeing that that social distancing and other measures are also being relaxed, not only in USA but also in other parts of the world. So it's only the matter of time that this hospitality industry is also going to pick up.
Okay, as you know, as clearly put there by the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, their help is on the way, and help clearly on the way for Americans, especially when it comes to bailing them out, and a big win there for the Biden administration. One of his first major wins there in the Senate, getting this $1.9 trillion bill, you know, getting the clearance. The margin has been to 220 votes to 211 votes. Well, moving on now. Texas has lifted its statewide mask mandate and business capacity limits on Wednesday, becoming the second state to do so after Mississippi. Several major retailers, grocery and restaurant chains in Texas, however, said they would still require that masks be worn in their stores. Texas was one of the first states to reopen its economy after the first wave of pandemic cases last May, and the nation's second most populous state led the way again last week when Governor Greg Abbott announced the relaxation amid declines in new daily COVID-19 cases and with the rollout of vaccines. While Colombia has rolled out its vaccine programs to inoculate the elderly, Colombia had secured vaccine agreements with a raft of pharmaceutical companies and the World Health Organization-backed COVAX program. Colombia is awaiting some 61.5 million vaccine doses, which will allow it to inoculate about 32.5 million people. This includes 10 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine, enough for 5 million people. Colombia has reported over 2.2 million coronavirus cases and more than 60,000 deaths. Moving to another South American country, Brazil, which has registered a gloomy record with 1,972 new COVID-19 deaths in a single day, according to the Health Ministry. The country registered 70,764 new cases of coronavirus, reaching a total of 11.12 million infections. Brazil has the second highest number of fatalities due to COVID virus, with 268,370 deaths being reported, and it is second on the list after United States of America in terms of fatalities. The report says that the growing number of cases in the cities risk a collapse of their health systems, and the government has been slow to purchase and distribute vaccines, with some 3.5% of the population having got one shot. The Australian government unveiled a $1.2 billion tourism support package today, aimed at boosting local travel while international routes remain closed due to COVID-19 pandemic. The government will subsidize 8 lakh tickets on domestic flights to 13 destinations around the country that mostly rely on international tourists, and offer cheap loans to small tourism operators. The package includes helping airlines with wages for international flying staff, keeping skills current, maintaining mothballed aircraft, and bringing planes out of storage.
800,000 tickets to ride for Australians to go out and ensure that they can experience this amazing country. That's what this is about. To keep people in their jobs, we've got to put planes in the air, and we've got to put tourists on the ground. The Australian tourism industry needs more tourists. They want to get on and run the businesses and welcome the tourists and provide the world-class services that they do. They don't want to stay at home. They don't want to be sitting there just receiving taxpayers' money endlessly. They want to be running their businesses. They want to be giving Australians, and ultimately later to be welcoming international tourists to their businesses and giving them the greatest experience than anyone can give in tourism anywhere in the world.
Well, Poland has reported nearly 17,260 new coronavirus cases on Wednesday. This is the highest number of cases reported in the country since November last year. Poland has grappled with its third wave of the pandemic. The total number of COVID-19 cases in Poland has crossed 1.8 million, and the total death toll in the country has mounted to 45,997. The sharp rise in the cases is attributed to the contagious variant of the virus first identified in Great Britain. Teachers in Argentina received their vaccination jabs in a bid to keep schools open for students in pandemic. Vaccination centers are set up in the capital Buenos Aires province to bring the sense of safety for school students as well as for teachers. Argentina registered over 2 million cases of COVID and has administered vaccines to 1.3 million people. Well, let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world on how the numbers are stacked up. So far, over 11 crore 86 lakh people have contracted COVID-19 globally, while the tally of recovery stand at 9 crore 42 lakh. Total deaths, 26 lakhs 32,000. People that have died globally due to COVID-19. The United States continues to be the worst affected by the pandemic, both in terms of fatalities as well as infections. In terms of infections, 2 crore 98 lakh infections. In terms of death toll, over 5 lakh 42,000 deaths being reported in the United States of America. Well, some more international news. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will meet top Chinese officials on March 18th during a stop in Alaska. The State Department said that on Wednesday. This will be the first high-level in-person contact between the two countries under the Biden administration. During a congressional hearing, Anthony Blinken said that meeting with Chinese officials is a chance to lay out in frank terms U.S. concerns with Beijing. He told the committee that the meeting also will explore whether there are avenues to cooperate with Beijing.
This is an important opportunity for us to lay out in very frank terms the many concerns that we have with Beijing's actions and behavior that are challenging the security, the prosperity, and the values of the United States and our partners and allies.
Well, a Greek police officer has been suspended after the release of an amateur video showing him beating a man with a baton during a lockdown check in the square of Athens. The video sparked protest across the country against police violence, and police said that the officer has been suspended. They also said that some 16 people have been detained during the clashes and one is to face charges of attempted murder over the attacks of the police officer injured. The UN Security Council has agreed on a statement that condemns violence against Myanmar protesters and has urged military restraints, but dropped the language condemning the army takeover as a coup and threatening possible further action due to opposition by China, Russia, India and Vietnam. The Council also expressed deep concerns at restrictions on medical personnel, civil society, labor, union members, journalists and media workers, and has called for the immediate release of all those detained arbitrarily. The British drafted statement was formally adopted at a council meeting. Myanmar has been in crisis since the army ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government in a Feb 1st coup this year. They have detained her and the officials of a National League for Democracy party and have set up a ruling junta of generals. The military complained of fraud in a November election, while the Election Commission said the vote was fair. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres marked the 10th anniversary of the Syria conflict, which was a crackdown by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad on pro-democracy protesters in 2011 that led to civil war, with Moscow backing Assad and Washington supporting the opposition. Millions of people have fled Syria and millions are internally displaced. The UN Secretary General said that Syria is a living nightmare where about half the children have never lived a day without war and 60% of Syrians are at risk of going hungry.
The violent suppression of peaceful popular demonstrations in Syria set the country on the path to a horrific war. After a decade of conflict, in the middle of a global pandemic, and faced with a steady stream of new crises, Syria has fallen off the front page. And yet, the situation remains a living nightmare.
Well, Ivory Coast Prime Minister Ahmed Bakayoko has died in Freiburg in southwest Germany 2 days after his 56th birthday. Bakayoko was seen as a possible successor to President Alassane Ouattara, a former media executive who turned to politics. Bakayoko acted as a negotiator and intermediary between warring factions as a prolonged civil conflict racked Ivory Coast from the early 2000s. He was appointed as Prime Minister in July 2020 following the sudden death of his predecessor Amadou Gon Kolwai, who had been handpicked by Ouattara to succeed him. He was flown to France on Feb 18 for medical checks and later to Freiburg in Germany. The government said in a statement that Ouattara had met Bakayoko during a visit in France last week and had given the state of the minister's health. It was recommended that his hospitalization should be extended. Well, heavy rains lashing the northern Bolivian department of Pando have triggered evacuation as the Tahumanu, Acar and the Madre de Dios rivers began to overflow. Bolivian soldiers evacuated residents, animals and household items from the heavily affected neighborhood where over a dozen houses were flooded. Authorities have declared an orange alert and suspended travel between provinces in Pando until the waters recede. Nicaragua's San Cristobal erupted, spewing large plumes of smoke and ash and showering surrounding areas in soot and cinders. The authorities have recommended nearby populations to keep calm and stay 2 kilometers away from the crater of the volcano. Although there were no reports of injury as a result of the eruption of Nicaragua's tallest mountain. International Olympic Committee, that's IOC President Thomas Bach on Wednesday won an unopposed second term that will keep him in the post until 2025 following a vote on the first day of a virtual IOC session. Bach took over in 2013 as the organization's 9th president since the body's founding in 1894, succeeding outgoing president Jacques Croc and beating 5 other candidates. Presidents can serve 2 terms, the first of 8 years and the second of 4 if re-elected. A German lawyer who won a gold medal in fencing at the 1976 Montreal Olympics, Thomas Bach has been an IOC member since 1991. On to footballing stories and Champions League. First up, Liverpool have managed to survive the Champions League ordeal and they managed to beat RB Leipzig 2-0. And that 2-0 victory suddenly soothes the unsettled nerves, especially in Anfield, as Mohamed Salah and Mario Sane both scored. Sadio Mane scored 2 goals there in helping Liverpool win that particular outing against the German club RB Leipzig. That's enough to help them reach the quarterfinals, but it's been a misery there for the English Premier League champions as they have struggled in this particular season, losing 6 games at home. Well, the second game of that UEFA Champions League saw Barcelona not being able to make a comeback and PSG, that's Paris Saint-Germain, reaching the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. The scoreline remained 1-1, but PSG managed to reach the quarterfinals on that aggregate score of 5-2. Barcelona had earlier lost the first leg 1-4 to PSG. As a goodwill gesture, Border Security Force handed over 2 minor Bangladeshi nationals to their parents at the border outpost in Krishnanagar in West Bengal. They had entered Indian territory with the intent of earning money. Border guard Bangladesh along with their parents approached BSF for taking them over. As they apprehended persons were minors considering humanitarian ground, and as a goodwill gesture, the apprehended minors were handed over to their parents during the meeting. Well, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, devotees perform puja and havan at the Shankaracharya temple in Srinagar on the occasion of MAHA. The festival of Shivratri, Herat, is being celebrated across Jammu and Kashmir. It's a 3-day festival which began on Wednesday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted people of Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister in a tweet said that Herat Mubarak, pray that this auspicious occasion furthers happiness and well-being all across. May everyone's aspirations be fulfilled in the times to come. MAHA festival has been celebrated nationwide. MAHA or the Great Night of Shiva is a celebration of Lord Shiva's marriage with Goddess Parvati. On this day, devotees express their gratitude and pray to Lord Shiva. Many even observe fast. MAHA, unlike many other festivals, is celebrated at night. Devotees are reaching Shiva temples to offer their prayers. Thousands of devotees throng to Har Ki Pauri in Haridwar to take a holy dip this morning. Har Ki Pauri Ghat in Haridwar lit up ahead of the first Shahi Snan or holy dip of Mahakumbh 2021. In Madhya Pradesh, priests at Ujjain's Mahakal temple offered prayers and performed Abhishek of Lord Shiva on the occasion of Mahashivratri. In Gorakhpur, devotees arrived in huge numbers at the Jharkhandi Mahadev temple to offer prayers on Mahashivratri today. On Mahashivratri, devotees offering prayers at Gauri Shankar temple in the national capital of India. Well, let's also head to Muradabad in Uttar Pradesh, where Mahashivratri celebrations are being seen with fervor and gaiety. President Ramnath Kovind has shared greetings of Mahashivratri to the people of the country. In a tweet, the President said, and I quote, "Greetings to countrymen on the auspicious occasion of Mahashivratri. May this festival, which is celebrated as remembrance of the sacred wedding of Goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva, turn beneficiary for humanity." Prime Minister Narendra Modi also extended greetings to the nation on the occasion of Mahashivratri. The Prime Minister tweeted, and I quote, "Greetings on the special occasion of Mahashivratri. Har Har Mahadev." Well, here are some visuals of Nepal's Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu, where devotees are visiting the temple and offering prayers to Lord Shiva and Shakti. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of News on the Hour. I hope you liked it, but do not forget to drop your guard. Do not drop your guard at any time, because the battle against COVID continues. So keep your mask on and have a safe and wonderful day ahead of celebrations and prayers. Take care.